Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to a very special video honoring a dear friend, a dear colleague, a mentor for me in many ways, our friend Alain Parguez, who passed away earlier in April. And we have a webinar set for June 6th, honoring his life and his work. But our guest today, Riccardo Bellofiore, cannot make it for reasons he will explain. So instead, this video honoring Alain Parguez. Hello, Riccardo.
Hello, Louis-Philippe. I am sorry I can't be with you tomorrow in person, so there is this pre-recording. The reason is a sad one, and it is paradoxical because we are honoring Alain Parguez after his death. There has been a lot of that of great names, very known in Italy, because they also taught in Italy in the last couple of months, like Axel Lejeune Food, who died in Trento, and also Fitoussi, who was connected with Louis. But in the last few days, Friday night, Piero Ferri died. Piero Ferri was a professor of economics in Bergamo. He was the person with whom I began my academic career. I studied with Claudio Napoleoni, but academically, I came into the university thanks to Piero Ferri. And I think that most of our listeners know who is Piero Ferri, if not for other reasons, because he was a strict collaborator with Hyman P. Minsky. There are the funerals tomorrow, exactly at the same hour of your meeting honoring Alain. And surely I want to be there. I hope there will be occasion to honor also Piero Ferri scientifically in the future.
Well, thank you very much. So how long have you known Alain? I've known Alain for 30 years or so. How long have you known Alain?
I am not sure of the exact moment in which I met Alain. In 1984, there was a conference in Nice in which Alain should be there. It was a conference of Graziani's Circuitous group and a parallel group of Richard Arenat. But Alain was not there. It was 1984 when Monet and Production began the publications.
Now, just so our listeners know, Monet Production was edited by Alain.
Exactly. I didn't say that, but I thought it was common knowledge. The year after, there was another conference in which Alain should have been there, but I think he didn't come. And the conference by Graziani was titled exactly Moneta e Produzione, so money and production, the same title than the journal by Alain. I was following, of course, Alain because the experience of the circuitist Alain Parguez and the circuitism alla Graziani were pretty close and parallel, not only in timing, but in substance. For sure, I met him in the 90s. You remember there was a meeting after the Monet Production died. I even remember that we wrote a letter for Le Monde that I'm not sure it was published, but from that letter, in supporting Alain, because there was a sad story about that. And from that sad story came an interesting conference. Then I met Alain many times at conferences, but we became friends, and there was a kind of syntony, if I may use this word. For sure, you will remember the conferences in Grenoble and in Dijon. He was famous for some of his great outbursts, so to speak, and also phrases, sometimes funny. One in Dijon, he said, "I reject absolutely everything I have said and written until now," which is more intelligent than it seems. The year before, he was pretty enthusiastic of an analogous joke that I made again in Dijon, when I said, look, it was 2007, and I was coming from a conference in London of Marxist, historical materialism. And I said, look, when I go to a Marxist conference, I realize how much I am a Keynesian. When I go to a Keynesian conference, and same for the post-Keynesian conferences, I realized how much I am a Marxian. And he was up there in the hall, and he was clapping his hands.
You wrote that in a paper I published in a book, and I can't remember which book, but you wrote that. And, you know, just so you know, I say that with different words, but I say that many times when I am just crediting you.
Exactly. Then, you know, there was this fact that Alain became a big figure because in his attempt to build bridges, he was many times confrontational. At the same time, even with the same people, he was building bridges or tried. He became a key figure of the groups that in Italy were critical of the euro. And even though he and me had a large area of consent, but also differences on this, we met in various of these conferences, and maybe we can talk of that a few minutes later on. I was particularly enthusiastic of his argument of the true rules of state expenditure, management, deficits, and so on. So I succeeded to have an article published in the journal Il Manifesto, which is an important left-wing journal. And after that, I invited him to make on that topic a lecture to my students. We are talking of 2011, 2012. And he went without any finance. I only offered him dinner. And as you know, at dinner, the most part of the expenditure with Alain is wine, white wine. But that's another story altogether. It was an exciting period because I had no more any money from the department. They for sure would not have financed me, but I decided to invite people all over Europe to come at their expenses. I paid the dinner with my pocket money, and most of them could come, and I even made a book, which was good for the department, but the department had nothing to do with it. And the last thing that I want to, the funny thing that I want to recall is that at that dinner, at a certain point, Alain stopped, looked at me, and said, Riccardo, I must confess to you, I have a problem with post-Keynesians. They are post-Keynesians. So in this, again, it's more intelligent than it seems. He had a peculiar vision of the economy, which I think was larger and more profound than the too generic word of post-Keynesian, exactly for the key point that he always stressed, together with Graziani in different ways, maybe sometimes, that a monetary economy is a capitalist economy, and in a capitalist economy, the key point is the link between money and production, money and real wealth more generally. Yeah,
yeah. You mentioned, thank you for those thoughts. You mentioned Alain as a builder, and I agree with that. And in the article that we wrote with Mario and a bunch of other people honoring Alain, that will come out in the July issue of Rope, we mentioned that. We mentioned how Alain is not remembered for someone who built bridges, but he did with the American post-Keynesian, with Monnaie en Production, and later in life with MMT. So he was someone who believed in trying to work with others, although he was very critical of others, like you've mentioned several times. He was a unique intellectual, very original, and not many people today have his breadth or depth of analysis. And he's someone that has contributed considerably to the development of critical economics.
You know, when this thing about MMT in Italy started from below. It was a journalist who built it.
Yeah.
And in this thing, there were a lot of things that were not very good, I think. But that was a great idea of this journalist, Paolo Barnard. Though I disagree with the way he managed the thing, not only it had success for a period, not only it had a lot of people coming in and be subjected to the influence also of Alain. There was also this episode that I want to tell you. This journalist, Paolo Barnard, came with this little car to Bergamo to ask me what I thought about the budget, this and that, because he had read something that I wrote in Italian and in English in some of your books with Joseph Falevi on the crisis and on the Italian economy, etc. And he told me that he learned economics through a sort of Skype with Randall Ray. And when he wanted to do something about Europe, he asked Ray, what are the people that I have to contact? And Ray said, the person you have to be in touch with is Alain Parguez.
I did not know that. I did not know that, how that came about. Yeah.
If I may, I want to expand a bit on what I said before, on what I think is the legacy of the last Alain, because as I see the intellectual journey of Alain, there is Alain in the first period, the early period, in which, like many in those years of the 70s, he was intrigued but distancing himself from the criticism of the ISLM and of neoclassical synthesis and of Varasian Keynesianism through the idea clover, lesion food, who died, somehow also fetus C, to the idea of putting away the auctioneer. As Graziani said, they never did the key move. They realized, they said that there was the need of a cash constraint, but never asked how and why money enters the circuit. Well, the first Parguez was mostly a positive analyst of the monetary circuit. From here, it came the critic of austerity and all that, of the ideology of the scarcity of money. The late Parguez is more interested, I think, in a normative vision of what is a general circuit picture. What I like in this last Parguez is this idea of good deficit and bad deficit and the true rules of state finance and good management of public finance. This is his expression. Because Alain says that the state deficit ex post is the net creation of income for the private sector as a whole. You may have bad deficits. The bad deficits are the deficits created by austerity policies. The deficits are bad because they are passive. They are the unplanned result of the collapse of the economy that the austerity policies are creating. The shock therapy, deflationary policies, etc. The good deficits are active deficits. They are planned deficits ex ante, and they target the creation of useful productive stock of capital. Here, capital means two things: tangible capital, infrastructure, which need a long-term horizon, and this is crucial for energy, ecological production, mobility, what we are discussing and we need right now, but also non-tangible capital, which is health, education, research, and so on. I think that in this way, he was focusing on the key issue that somehow I think was the issue from which macroeconomics was built before the general theory, the issue of what, how, and how much to produce. Now, I think that this is not only intelligent, it's not only a mean to criticize current policies, but is the beginning of the answer of the problem we have witnessed with the Great Recession, but then COVID, and somehow even the conflict with Ukraine, where the main point is structural, is sometimes well beyond the socialization of investment, not only in Keynes' meaning, but even in Minsky's meaning. It is what I call the necessity to go towards an economy of social production. So when you move yourself into a normative dimension, that is the problem. There is a sensible criticism to this, you know. You are visionary. This is a pure abstract picture. They are principles, and we need to face day to day the individual problems. I think this is a trap, because you need to frame a general discourse, then confront it with the reality, because otherwise you do not confront anything meaningful with the reality. Then you can make the adaptations, then you can understand how to go from here to there. But I think that one crisis after the other, we are realizing that the mainstream policies have failed, but also the simple fixation with pump priming, generic expenditure as an answer, which may be put forward in a very intelligent way, it is not enough. We have to mix the effective demand theme with the structural problems of the economy. And in fact, I think monetary circuit with Alain and with Augusto Graziani was exactly beginning to think in these terms in the 70s.
Very interesting. I will be contacting you soon, actually, because I will be editing a book called Advances in the Monetary Circuit. Yes, so I want to focus again on the importance of the monetary circuit, its relevance today, and so I'll be inviting you to contribute yet another chapter to yet another project of mine. Riccardo, thank you very much. Any final thoughts? I just want to leave you with a thought of Alain, because I have a million stories to tell, as I'm sure you do. But one comes to mind when he visited me in New York City when I was a graduate student at the New School, and he stayed with me in my apartment. And at 3 a.m., he bursts into my bedroom, wakes me up, and starts lecturing me about Keynes while pacing up and down my bedroom along my bed, and then disappears after 10 minutes. And so, you know, that was the quirkiness that was Alain.
The specter of circuitism.
Yeah, exactly. Any final thoughts, Riccardo?
No, I think I have said. I could go on and on to say how Alain, and I think he knows that, Alain's argument about money and existing only as long as it originates real value is, after all, nothing but Marx value theory interpreted in a sensible way that is not a micro individual ruling of individual prices, because Alain actually said, as Graziani in a couple of very beautiful papers, said that the value of finance is the purchasing power of bank money on the labor market, buying labor power and the bargaining with. So that's the purchasing power, and that's the origin of the creation of wealth, which is incarnated in an output which has a money price dimension. And this is the circuit. And this is the reason why, again, this is a quote from Alain, labor is truly the ultimate factor of production. So in this way, a lot of false problems are put aside, and the real issue becomes how to articulate this with the real novelty of the Keynes-Kaleski position. But this Marxian view already incorporates that the financing of production is driven by effective demand. And this is a point that you find written in this way in Rosa Luxemburg, that she said, you know, capitalists produce, capitalist firms to sell. And so they produce only if they see a demand for coming.
Sure.
So that from where I think the macro of the 20th century truly began. And I don't see why this link should be. I think it can be still a promising synthesis.
Well, on that note, thank you very much for taking
Thank you
the
very
time.
much.
Good luck at the funeral tomorrow, and we're losing too many friends. So
Yeah, exactly. I will see the thing on YouTube because I'm sure you will put it all right.
I will. And bye-bye. Thank
Ciao.
you. Bye-bye. Ciao.